to the NBA. Knicks are set to face the Hawks. Since Jalen Brunson's first postseason with the Knicks in 2023, New York has won a postseason series in each of the last 3 years. Brunson has averaged almost 30 points per game in the postseason since joining the Knicks. Kenny the Jet Smith back here with us, so let's stay with Jalen Brunson. Can Brunson be the best player on a championship team, Kenny?
Yes. He's proven that he's a winner. The funny thing, I used to watch him play when he was in high school and on the AAU circuit. And I used to be like, man, can he do those moves and get away with that in college? Goes to college, goes to Villanova, wins a national championship. I'm like, can he get away with that type of basketball in the NBA? So every time that I thought about it, he's always delivered. So 100%, he can be that player.
Yeah, I think Kenny, and great to talk to you again. I think he's going to be the two guy. Look at the teams right now who have chances to win championships. So just in postseason play, very good teams. He's not as good as Doncic with the Lakers. He's not as good as Jokic with Denver. He's not as good as Wembanyama. He's not as good as Brown. He's not as good as Tatum. I'm not even sure if he's better than Cunningham. He's certainly not better than SGA. So if you look at the players that are threats to win championships, these are all number ones. He's not as good as Anthony Edwards. He's not as good as...
So I have a question when you say not as good as. Because in the playoffs, to me, I wouldn't say, yes, maybe he's not as good as. But is he as impactful?
Well, defensively, too. He gets killed defensively. Are we going to throw the defense in, too? Gets caught in those pick and rolls. He gets destroyed all the time. He's not a great defensive player. No, it's Doncic. I understand that. But my point is, look at the 1As on all these teams. Plus SGA, I didn't even mention him. And he's the Knick 1A. That makes it difficult in my eyes for them to go out there and win a championship if he is their best player and their number one guy. He's great. But to win a title, you got to be, pretty close to an immortal. You got to be a phenomenal player. I'm not sure if he's on that level. Steve?
Two things could be true. Kenny could be absolutely right with what he's saying in terms of Jalen Brunson has consistently answered the call on the collegiate level, on the pro level. Matter of fact, people forget that when Dallas went to the conference finals years ago, it was him that carried them there. Luka got hurt. And it was him that carried them, if you remember, when they got to the conference finals and they had lost to Phoenix.
The First Take crew just had a heated debate about Jalen Brunson. And Mad Dog Chris Russo dropped a bombshell. He said, Jalen Brunson cannot be the best player on a championship team. Let me break down both sides of this argument because it's not as simple as it seems. First, let me give you Kenny Smith's case. Kenny said, yes, he can. He's proven that he's a winner. Kenny watched Brunson in high school, on the AAU circuit, and doubted whether his moves would translate. Then Brunson went to Villanova and won a national championship. Kenny doubted whether that style would translate to the NBA. And every time, Brunson has delivered. He's averaged almost 30 points per game in the postseason since joining the Knicks. And Kenny pointed out something that people forget. When Luka Doncic got hurt years ago in Dallas, it was Jalen Brunson who carried the Mavericks to the conference finals. That's when he was a reserve, looking to get paid. Dallas was hesitant to give him $50 million. Look at how that panned out. So Kenny's argument is simple. Brunson has answered every challenge. Why would this one be any different? Now let me give you Mad Dog's case. He said, look at the teams that have a chance to win championships. He's not as good as Luka Doncic. He's not as good as Nikola Jokic. He's not as good as Victor Wembanyama. He's not as good as Jaylen Brown. He's not as good as Jason Tatum. He's not as good as Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He's not as good as Anthony Edwards. That's a murderer's row of talent. And Mad Dog's point is that every one of those guys is the number one option on their team. They are the 1A. Jalen Brunson is the Knicks 1A. And in Mad Dog's eyes, that makes it difficult for the Knicks to win a championship. He said, to win a title, you got to be pretty close to an immortal. You got to be a phenomenal player. I'm not sure if he's on that level. Stephen A. stepped in and tried to find the middle ground. He said two things can be true. Kenny is absolutely right that Brunson has consistently answered the call. but Stephen A. sides with Mad Dog on one specific issue. Size. He said, I do look at size as playing a role as the playoffs continue to progress. When you look at Jaylen Brown, legit 6 feet 7 inches. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, legit 6 feet 7 inches. Luka Doncic, 6 feet 7 inches, 250 pounds. LeBron James. Jason Tatum, legit 6 feet 9 inches. Kevin Durant. And then you have Steph Curry, who is a different breed because he can shoot from anywhere and he sends people to the infirmary chasing him around. But Brunson. Stephen A. said, as great as Brunson is, he even has shown us he needs a little bit more help. To get over the hump, you need somebody bigger and just as great. It's basically his size that I'm holding against him more than anything else. Kenny Smith countered with the Detroit Pistons example. He said, show him Chauncey Billups, Rip Hamilton, and tell him you have to be Rasheed Wallace. That's the type of team that's going to have to win this championship. In other words, the Knicks don't need Brunson to be a one-man show. They need him to be the leader of a balanced team. And Kenny added that if there are 10 seconds left and you name all those great players, but Jalen Brunson has the ball, he's feeling super confident. Brunson will get his shot off and get them what they need, regardless of his size. Stephen A. also went off on the Mikal Bridges trade. He said, you can't let that man give up 5 first-round picks for Mikal Bridges. 4 first-round picks. 6 overall when you consider the swaps for a non-All-Star. You cannot let your organization make that decision when you are the face of the franchise, which Jalen Brunson is. Kenny tried to defend Brunson, saying he can't control what the front office does. Stephen A. fired back, that's the only thing I hold against Jalen Brunson as a Knicks fan. Nothing else. Now let me talk about the Knicks-Hawks series. Tim McMahon said the key is Karl-Anthony Towns. He said, KE has to show up. He's always going to determine the ceiling for the New York Knicks. You know what you're getting out of Brunson. What are you going to get out of KAT? The Hawks don't have a lot of frontcourt size. KAT has to be aggressive. He has to be involved. Shams agreed. He said, we need to see it game 1. We need to see it game 2. We need to know that this is going to be a healthy diet. When he feels like he's a part of this, it's contagious for everybody. You get a lot more out of him. A. And D. Finally, the pressure question. If the Knicks lose this series, is it a catastrophe? Stephen A. said, of epic proportions. The Knicks have been talking about it internally all year. They started the season in Abu Dhabi. They were the first ones on the court. They knew from that moment forward that this season is all about taking the next step. If they're looking around that locker room and not feeling that pressure, that's the problem. They're supposed to be in the finals at the end of the year. All right, let me wrap this up with some questions for you. Drop your takes in the comments. 1. Can Jalen Brunson be the best player on a championship team, or is Mad Dog right? 2. Is Brunson's size the biggest obstacle for the Knicks in the playoffs? 3. Will Karl-Anthony Towns show up and be the second star the Knicks need? 4. If the Knicks lose to the Hawks in the first round, is it a catastrophe? I'll read the best comments in the next video. Smash like if you think Brunson can lead the Knicks to a title. Hit subscribe if you agree with Mad Dog. And comment your Knicks-Hawks prediction right now. Let's go.